Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing inspiring stories from business owners, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors on the pursuit of wealth and financial freedom. This month's episodes of Inspire to Invest have been brought to you by Knock Knock. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inspire to Invest. I have John Wijtenburg here with me from Plantation, Florida. He is the founder and chief investment officer of LXK Group, a firm shaping the middle market of commercial real estate. He leads a hybrid platform that combines consulting precision with investment execution, empowering experienced real estate operators to scale through trusted systems, aligned capital, and high-touch leadership. With offerings like the Sponsors Forge, the Deal Foundry, and a growing portfolio of hospitality investments, John champions craftsmanship, operational excellence, and mindset transformation in an industry often dominated by hype. So with that said, how are you today? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Serena. I appreciate it.
So you definitely have a pretty interesting, collection of businesses and expertise, but maybe we can go back to the beginning and you can share how you got into all of these different spaces.
Absolutely. So I started out in real estate in as an economist at Fannie Mae, and this was 2008 and 9. So we were right in the midst of all the collapse, and I was a credit loss analyst there, an economist. I left there because I wanted to get into commercial real estate and move back to Florida. When I was going around talking to folks, everybody was saying, look, there's nothing happening right now. It's 2011. You're not going to get a job at any kind of commercial real estate spot. And so
Yeah.
why don't you try brokerage? And so I became a broker selling apartments at Marcus and Millichap. And it was also a tough time, but it introduced me to how to put a deal together, how to really get into the weeds on this business, and was eventually recruited by a regional hotel developer down here to do institutional hotel acquisitions in major markets around the country.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did acquisitions, asset management, raising capital, all of those things. And then
Yeah.
in 2020, everything collapsed, right? I mean, this was like the worst recession for that big institutional
Yeah.
box. And I left that company to start and build a portfolio of extended stay economy scale hotels with a
Yeah.
buddy. And we built that to 8 properties, raised about $60 million in equity and debt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was just a tremendous experience.
And where were those typically focused on, like all in Florida, or did you expand beyond the state?
So, and in the institutional shop, we were all over the US, but in our extended stay portfolio was all in Florida.
Yeah. Now, as you've been growing this, obviously you do have a background working as an economist and doing different things in real estate. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you encountered as you were kind of forging into this new area?
Yeah, so the biggest challenges that I encountered were growth related. And this is something that I thought was unique to me and to the companies that I worked for. But the reality is, as I moved off of, day-to-day operations of the extended stay portfolio and started doing more consulting and asset management and seeing the way other sponsors work, I realized that it didn't really matter the pedigree of the owners or partners or employees. It didn't matter the size of the portfolio, whether it
Yeah.
was 50 million, 500 million, a billion. Once you hit somewhere around like 5 to 8 properties, depending on the operational intensity, you start to hit a ceiling because all the decisions run through you. And until you build those systems and change the mindset that you don't have to control absolutely everything,
Yeah.
you're just stuck and you hit that ceiling, and it's so
Yeah.
difficult to break through that. And so that's why I created the Sponsors Forge and all these other workshop programs to get through that barrier.
So for somebody that is maybe in their infancy and they're just starting out, and this is part of their strategic plan, like what would you suggest to somebody based on what you've learned to get through those hurdles?
Yeah, so the first thing that I think is so important is to realize that the 3 L's of real estate investing that are location, 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 are really not the true 3 L's. That L, the location is very important. There's no question about it. And when it comes to that, there's plenty of courses and coaches that'll teach you about that. The next one I like to focus on is leverage. And I focus on 3 points of leverage, not just capital, three additional points, but it's not just capital. So it's capital, collaboration, which is the people that you associate with,
Yeah.
code, which is are the systems that keep things moving when you're not around, and then content and or communication that helps pull it all together. And those things really drive the business. The other thing that is really important in this business is lifestyle. I think
Yeah.
so many people think that it's easy to go and buy the first property and it's easy enough to do that, but then you have to align the lifestyle with your vision and who you want to become,
Yeah.
because you can easily go deep into this business and become an operator and to do construction on your own and operate property operations and management on your own.
Yeah.
But then you quickly lose sight of, okay, now I can't do investments as much as I love to, or the other parts of the business that you love. And in many cases, a lot of people start outsourcing the things that they love and keep all of the things that they hate,
Yeah.
and they start to hate the business as a
Yeah.
result. And
Yeah.
so that's why I think it's important to align, location, leverage, and lifestyle. And then I also throw in luck. I mean, there's a lot of luck in this business. And
Yeah.
so if you put yourself out there, you put in the reps, you'll get lucky. It's just a matter of being in the business and
Yeah.
being in the market.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I actually had my own business for 18 years, and one of the biggest barriers that I was facing was just payroll. Like it sounds really silly, but we had an event staffing business, so it was pretty significant volume. And I was like, how do I communicate all these people that have to be paid, which could be 10 people, it could be hundreds of people week to week. Like we were committed to paying biweekly. And when I had one of my mentors early on, like, and I early on, I say 10 years into the business, he was like, stop doing this. Like you're wasting so much time. So think about how this is hindering your sales. And we just had to come up with how to communicate this to a bookkeeper and the systems that we needed with our staff. And I went from spending sometimes like a day or two a week on this to like I would just hit accept and transfer the money. Right?
Exactly.
At the time, it's also as the technology evolves and stuff like that, right? Like we'd use a Google Sheet that all of my account managers could all work on at the same time to kind of approve who's going, goes to the bookkeeper. So obviously, like Google Drive wasn't maybe available in 2004. So as the technology shifted and changed and stuff like that. But, once we did that along with some SEO, like our sales doubled because I was able to focus more on, again, driving the business rather than being stuck in the business, doing something I had no business doing because I wasn't a bookkeeper. I had no financial training. I was just kind of slugging it out and stuff like that, right? So,
Right. Your value was so much more important in the sales side or other parts of the
yeah.
business and the
Yeah, but
vision.
it's hard to
Yeah,
just, you have to, sometimes it takes someone to look at it and they can see what's in your blind spot, right? Or help you navigate the solutions. So, yeah,
absolutely.
I'm a big believer in that. Now, in terms of things like your successes, what would you say you're most proud of?
So one of the, it's easy to point to the deals that you do and say, we built a portfolio of 8 properties. We did so much money in transactions. But the things that I'm really most proud of is I built a team overseas in 2022 through 2024 where we had almost everything that did not have to be on the ground here in the properties, we were able to ship overseas. And that was everything from customer service, which everybody knows, the VA work and EA work, which everybody knows. But what was really exciting for me was we sent off marketing, we sent off sales, we sent off um, accounting, HR, compensation and benefits, recruiting, everything that didn't have to be on the property.
Yeah,
We built a team that would have cost at least $1.5 million annually here in the States for about $250,000 offshore. And
yeah,
it was more resilient. It was more aligned with our culture. And those were the things that were most important. I mean, the cost savings is one thing, but in such a tight labor market, it was hard to find the right people here.
yeah.
And so that was super exciting for me.
Now, how are you quality controlling that? Because there's a lot of people that are, interested in hiring VAs, but sometimes they're not really sure like how to manage the communication or the expectations and stuff like that. So for so much robust work that you are outsourcing, how are you just making sure that the quality doesn't suffer?
Yeah, it's really tough, and it comes down to engagement. one of the things that was really critical for me on the engagement side was to have daily huddles, and these are short. I mean, people get all hung up on this that they have to be long meetings. These are short, no more than 10-minute meetings where you get aligned on what everybody's working on today, how it aligns with the sprint that you're in or the goals that you have for this
Yeah.
current period. And then with that, you're able to adjust, you're able to identify challenges before they become problems.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's where a lot of people, who are too afraid of more meetings, trip up because they don't realize it doesn't have to be a big burden.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can appreciate that. What would you say is one of the biggest lessons that you've had to learn over the last few years?
One of the biggest lessons is learning that a failure is not what you think it is. Uh, I think in real estate, we're always, or deal making generally, you're always going for a home run. And, often there are things out of your control. Often there are things that you miss along the due diligence process, whatever
Yeah.
it is. But when you realize that your investors expect a certain level of risk, and they expect that things could go wrong from time to time. And COVID's a great example. We closed on a 250 room hotel in December 2019.
Oh,
I mean, this was like the worst possible time. It
yeah.
was our first big syndication, so we raised
Yeah.
$20 million for that, and everybody was upset, obviously. But they realized, look, this is a risk outside of our control, but it shouldn't let you stop. It shouldn't force you to stop raising money or
Yeah.
stop, going for the at bats. I mean, everybody wants to hit a home run. Most of them are singles and doubles. Sometimes you'll hit a foul. Sometimes you'll get out. But if you don't continue to step up the plate, you can't hit the home run. You can't
Yeah.
hit the
Yeah.
singles or doubles.
Awesome. I think that's a really great spot just to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. It's about working smarter, not harder. If you're a realtor, you're not just selling houses, you're running an entire business. And every business needs smart systems. And that is where the Knock Knock app comes in. With Knock Knock, I am able to store my entire client and property database in one place. And if you have any rental properties, you can even include the landlord details with each listing. You can easily create clean, interactive presentations. You can export them as PDFs or send them with just one click. You can instantly generate visual listing collages, great for client overviews and social sharing. You can co-broker with other agents with Knock Knock's private agent-only market. And the best part, you can access absolutely everything from the app right on your phone. That's important for a really busy realtor. If you want a tool that helps you run your business better, you have to check out the Knock Knock app. Like I said, it's about running your business smarter, not harder. Inspire to Invest is proudly sponsored by Share, a US-based platform designed to help Canadians and Americans invest in rental properties across the United States completely remotely. With Share, you don't have to deal with tenants, repairs, or trying to figure out unfamiliar markets on your own. They handle the entire process for you, from setting up your US entities to sourcing vetted rental properties in landlord-friendly states to managing everything post-close with professional property management. It's a done-for-you turnkey solution designed to give you all the upside of real estate ownership without the typical landlord headaches. If you've been wanting to diversify into US real estate but didn't know where to start, Share could be just the partner you've been looking for. Thanks again for following along with this episode of Inspire to Invest. In addition to real estate, investing, and running my own brand experience agency for 18 years, I also published a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur in October of 2021. This is my story, and it chronicles how I turned tragedy into triumph to embrace my destiny in entrepreneurship. If you're interested in picking up a copy, you can find the link at serenahomesrealtor.com, and you can also find my link tree with all of the retailers in the details below. Thanks again for your support. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Inspire to Invest. I've got John Wijtenburg here with me, and we're chatting about his experience as a real estate investor and business owner, more recently offshore, taking advantage of VAs to facilitate the growth of his business in some creative ways. And one of the things that I always like to ask people is, what's one of the craziest things that you've ever experienced as a real estate investor or as an entrepreneur?
The most recent venture that I was in, was very different than the institutional luxury lifestyle properties that I was working on. So in the economy scale extended stay world, we were almost like, transitional housing.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people who were on the verge of homelessness, coming out of homelessness, low income, fixed income. And it was a very different culture and crowd than what I was used to. And I took on operations for the first time. I was so scared to do it because I always had an operator. We're vertically integrated now. And as I was having my daily huddle with my management team, I was home with a sick child right behind me. And one of my managers starts telling a story about how they had one guest throw a window through, throw a chair through the window, and then another manager talking about, the kind of, gangs and drug dealers and things like that on the property. And for me, it was a little bit normal, but then when I got off the call, my son's like, "Dad, what kind of hotels are you running now? This is ridiculous. This is crazy." And it was just so surprising to me that it had become so normal in my world,
Yeah.
and so different from what I was doing before.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think when it comes to real estate, there's just never a dull moment. I mean, I'm a licensed realtor as well, and I went by a property last week just to throw up a for sale sign. And it wasn't in the greatest part of town. So my husband came with me, and I was like, oh, no, it's fine. And he came with me. He's like, what's in the shed back there? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like I was just here to put my sign up kind of thing. And he went back and we saw that like someone had been squatting there for quite some time. Like there was a mattress, there was a sleeping bag, a crack pipe, their cell phone, their wallet. So I think when we parked, they took off because they probably heard us park. But I was like, imagine I'd been there alone and I just ran into the guy, right? Like that's a significant safety issue and you just never know what you're going to encounter, right? So I think you just have to
Absolutely.
just be prepared for anything.
Exactly, exactly.
So, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would go back and do differently if you'd had that information at that time, aside from not
Absolutely.
buying a hotel before COVID?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that I've run into, and I've seen this in my own businesses as well as working with a lot of clients, is that a lot of people, I would say most real estate investors go vertically integrated too quickly.
Yeah,
I think they see the fees that they're paying the property manager, they see the 20% overhead that the GC is
yeah,
charging, and they see that as money that should be in their pocket, or they can do it better, or they have better focus, or all the different reasons why they want to take that over.
yeah,
And what they don't realize is that once you become an operator, whether you're doing the construction or the property management, you're dividing your focus. And so if your goal is quality management and to, be, hands-on and that sort of thing, then great, go for the vertical integration. But if your goal is to build a big portfolio, if your goal is to find the freedom most people are looking for when they get into this business,
yeah,
it's probably best to find really great partners and take all of that energy that you would put into becoming vertically integrated and bringing everything in-house, put that into building better systems for screening partners
yeah,
and engaging and building contracts and things that build alignment. I think
yeah,
that's the biggest thing that I've changed in my business going forward.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that's significant. Now, obviously, you have done kind of a lot in a short period of time. What would you say is next for you?
So the next thing, I'm launching my book about it's called the CRE Growth Blueprint, and it's all about implementing the CRE Growth Operating System, which is a mixture of various things, but it's what we teach in our workshops. So excited to launch that book. And then there's a good amount of distress coming in the hotel space. I think 50% of all special servicing that's coming in is in the hotels. And so I see a tremendous opportunity for rescue capital as well as repositioning some of those assets.
Yeah. How would you say real estate investing has changed your life when it comes to time, money, and freedom?
I don't really know too much else. I mean, it's been most of my career.
Yeah,
Uh, so I can't say that it's changed my life. I think my life has changed around real estate investing. And so, once I had a family, it became um, a different kind of business for me.
Hmm.
And so now I'm focused more on automation and freedom than I was before, where it's mostly about money and how much, how much of an empire you can build. Now it's
Yeah.
more of, how can I get more time with my family? How can I build assets and resources for my kids and my next generation?
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, the name of this podcast is Inspired to Invest. So I always like to ask guests if they've got a particular quote that motivates or inspires them.
Yeah, so this one's actually really relevant right now because there's so much uncertainty. But my favorite has always been there's never a market good enough to prevent a bad deal, nor a market bad enough to prevent a good deal.
Now, is there anything in closing that you'd want to leave with anyone that is watching or listening right now?
Uh, yeah, I think it's just that, there's a lot going on in the world, and you just have to stay in the game and learn as much as you can. I think we there's such a finite small area that we can control, and you just
Yeah.
have to focus on those things that you can control because most everything else is out of your control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, how can anyone get in touch if they want to learn more about your coaching, your book, or anything else that you've got on the go?
Absolutely. So my website is johnwijtenburg.com. You can sign up for the book waitlist there. My business website is lxkgroup.com. I have an investor waitlist there. And then you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. So I'll make sure that we'll include that in the show notes below. Thank you for your time. And of course, for anyone that is watching or listening, we appreciate your time. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And you're following along on social at Inspired to Invest podcast. And remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again. Thank you to Knock Knock for bringing us this month's episodes of Inspired to Invest. The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.